The Awkward Genius Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Awkward Genius Podcast. I will not be talking this fast the whole time. I just started talking this way in the beginning and now I'm going to stop. So if you're back with us, I do apologize. I don't know why anybody would keep coming back to this. I am just sitting here at my kitchen table talking, thus the name of the podcast, The Awkward Genius Talks. And I'm doing this as an exercise. I do it every single day to get better at talking for my YouTube channels, for life in general, and I think that's it. So this time, again, a little bit different from yesterday where I was just shining my shoes and blathering. I do have some points that I'm going to cover. The first point is my wet bum. So I actually have to start with the second point because the second point is rain and the fact that it has been raining for weeks and weeks and weeks. In the last 8 weeks, there have been 3 days of sunshine, partial sunshine sometime during the day. There have been probably 5 weeks, 35 days, where it is constantly raining. Where just to try and get a dog out, it is raining. So, why am I talking about rain? It leads into the third point, but it also leads into the first point. I'm getting confused with the points here. But this morning I went to go run an errand and I had to put the heat on so that the windshield wouldn't fog up. And so the heat was on. And then it was way too hot, so I had to crack the window a little bit. I don't think it was really raining at that point. Left the car for a little while with the window just cracked, and then of course forgot it. And when I went back to go get the boys for lunch at school, the seat was all wet, and so now I've got a wet bum, which seems like it happens all the time. Like I'm just always leaving the window open and in the rain. Usually I open Oslo's window, and so that seat gets wet and it's not such a big deal. But this time I opened my own window. Now I've got the wet bum. It dawned on me when I said I was going to talk about this that maybe I should just go and put on dry pants. But the thing is, it's not a really wet bum. It's just humid. And it's just the kind of thing, it'll dry in, like 20 minutes. It's just a little bit annoying. And so, one, from the just general Armageddon skies of grayness and rain and clouds and that autumn kind of funk of the sun's going down at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you don't see it anyway because it's been cloudy and rainy. So between that and then that's just kind of the general malaise. And then you add on top of that, like stubbing your toe or getting a wet bum. And we move right into feeling crappy, which is going to be the cornerstone of today's chat. And I just realized today, although I had some hints about it, that everybody feels crappy pretty often. And so that makes me realize that obviously it's just a part of life. I don't know where we got the idea that we're not supposed to feel crappy. I believe the pharmaceutical industry may not be for nothing in all of that. The idea that, if you're feeling crappy, there's probably some kind of pill you should be taking. And just general society, because, people don't really talk about feeling crappy, we tend to assume that they don't feel crappy. The whole thing where every time you see somebody, you say, hey, how you doing? And every time you ask them, they say, I'm doing great, I'm fine, everything's good. And it's almost like we don't even pay attention to the meaning of the words anymore. Like, I think the only example I can think of in English is how we think movies sounds fine, because we're just used to using it all the time, and we don't really think about where it comes from, but we think talkies sounds stupid. And that's just because we don't use it, we don't hear it. We only hear it in that old-timey context. It's like, oh, talkie, yeah, because they talk. A couple years before that, it was movies because it moved. And so you say it and you don't even think of the meaning of the words. There's a bunch of other ones. But if anyone sees this and has an idea, you can put it in the comment section. Because it's, I'm trying to think, it's like good day, where it's just a way of saying hello. And you don't even really hear like the person's like wishing you to have a good day. But anyway, so back to the point of everybody feeling crappy all the time. Not all the time, but often. And the way that I realized this is I started feeling crappy a number of years ago. And so obviously because you're not ever supposed to feel crappy, I went and saw a shrink. Just for, I think I did like 6, what do we call them, meetings? What do you call them? Appointments, I guess. Anyway, and so in the beginning, she had me fill out the anxiety like questionnaire, and it was a thing. It was like basically a point system, where you put yes, sometimes never, and then a yes is worth 2 points, and sometimes is 1, and never is 0, and and then at the end they see how many points you've got to kind of figure out where you are on the scale of, I think this one was an anxiety or just feeling crappy. And I'm going through it and it's like a lot of like hardcore stuff. It's just like never, never, never. Okay. And then so for some of the lighter stuff is like, I don't know, you feel anxious in this situation, that situation. Like, yeah, sometimes. And so we got down the questionnaire and it was just all nevers. And so I got like 3 points. So the shrink was like, immediately was like, oh, okay, so this is, low end. And so she did some some stuff about rewiring your brain, which I never really understood. I thought I did when I was talking to her, but like how you're actually supposed to do it in practice, no, never really got it. And then the other thing was I had my doctor gave me some meds, again, because I just talked to her about feeling crappy, a little anxious sometimes, and so she gave me some meds, and then when she was out, I spoke to her replacement, and he was a little bit more forthcoming about, these meds, they stay in your system for a long time, they're not great, but he wasn't my everyday doctor, so it wasn't until I saw her again that I was like, I asked her, is there anything, maybe less toxic that I could take? And she said, well, you're on 1.5 milligrams a day. A quarter dose. Like right now, they don't even sell the 1.5 milligrams. They sell 6, and you have to break it into 4 little pieces. So she said, well, you're on 1.5 milligrams once a day. I've got lots of people that are on 6 milligrams, 4 times as much, 3 times a day. And so she said, if you want something that's less aggressive, the next step down is herbal tea. So that's all like fine and dandy. You talk to the doctor, you talk to the shrink, and they're both like, oh, this is incredibly minor. That's basically what leads me to the belief that, one, we've totally got the belief in society that, we should never feel crappy, because we're not taught, I guess we were taught to deal with it, like by not dealing with it, by just suppress it and just move on. Like when it's funny because when I talk to old timers, I'd be like, man, do you feel anxious, or did you ever, were you anxious or stressed? Stress is a word they've got the right to admit to that. But it's funny, like all the other ones that have kind of come into the lexicon now, it like just didn't even, it's not in their vocabulary. So they're like, I was talking to this old timer, and I was like, were you anxious or an anxious person? And he said, well, no, I just kind of, he just kind of dealt with it and got on with it. And as that's actually not a no, it's a yes, but we didn't have that word for it, and we didn't have this, what do you call it, expectation that we shouldn't feel that way, And so one is that exactly that with this expectation that we should never feel crappy, and then the other one is that if I can point to how I'm feeling as feeling crappy, and then when you go and you see the professionals, you're way at the bottom of their scale. That means there are people that fill out that scale, that are higher up, that are feeling worse. A lot of people in the same boat I am, and so I just think it's really interesting. One, that everybody feels crappy, and then two, the reason I decided to jump into this is because I think there's probably a lot of opportunity, basically to help, to talk about it, to talk about subjects about it. Not like, I don't know if this is feeding into the idea that we should never feel crappy, and but I think that, so we need to talk about it. But I think that's already there, and so so it's actually a good idea to just kind of bring it out. And it's like I actually made a video a couple weeks ago of just 7 really simple things you can do to feel a little better, just anytime. Stuff like staying hydrated, drinking a lot of water, taking a minute and doing just not even breath work, but just taking a couple deep breaths. Super simple stuff like that. And and I believe I lost my train of thought there. So ways to be helpful. Basically, I'm just going to try and dig into this a little bit, and see if there are topics around this that are worth discussing. But I think it's probably something, and this is probably well-known knowledge at this point, but it's probably something that a lot of people are thinking about pretty much on their own. And so that's why I think that this, an online forum to kind of hear somebody else talking about it, have a chance to maybe discuss a little bit in the comments, semi-anonymously, is a nice step to be able to have, because I think it is something that in everyday life people aren't talking about very much, and that a lot of people are dealing with. Okay, I've chewed this up every which way I can. A lot of times what I'm going to do with these videos is exactly that, is pick a topic and basically just say it out loud, and talk about it, even though it doesn't make for good viewing at this point. But try and chew up the idea a little bit and see what other ideas that brings to actually bring me to a point where I can start making more organized videos around specific topics. Anyway, that's all I've got for you. I'm not sure. I keep sitting down to do these videos without coming up with what my advice thing is going to be before I do. So I think I'm going to scrap that, especially since this is purely an exercise for learning to talk. I don't think I need much structure or any kind of gadgets or gimmicks about how I enter it or end it. So sometimes I will go ahead and do the opening song like I did today, and sometimes I'll just sit down and start shining my shoes like I did yesterday. that is the end of this episode of the Awkward Genius Talks. You should go now.